Hang on, let me see. Okay. Um. Uh. 3:30. Okay. I
Do
think
you have a TV on in the background?
no. My family, my dad, and my two little sisters are eating dinner right now,
Okay.
and yeah. Sorry.
We'll try to work through it.
Okay. So the first problem I have is it is okay. Let me see. Fx is in parentheses equals 8 minus x squared. And this is saying, it says, decide whether the function is a polynomial function. If so, write it in standard form and state its degree, type, and leading coefficient.
Okay.
That's what it says to do with it.
Okay.
So,
If I want to put this in standard form, how should I write it?
if you're going to put it in standard form, you need it in, I'm sorry. Hang
Put
on.
the highest degree variable in front.
Highest, oh yeah, and then it goes in descending order, right?
Correct. If
Okay.
there was an x, it would go after the x squared. And the
Yeah.
number goes last. Okay. Now, that's standard format. What are the questions they're asking again?
Okay, so it says decide whether the function is a polynomial
Okay.
function. If
Stop.
so, write it in standard.
Stop. It is a polynomial.
Okay.
Polynomials are whenever you have x's to positive integers. In other words, if I said, is that a polynomial? The answer is no. If I say, is that a polynomial? Yes. Is that a polynomial? Yes. Is that a polynomial? Yes. Is this a polynomial? No. Because that is x squared plus x to the 1/2. 1/2 is not a positive integer.
Okay.
So these are not polynomials, but this one is. And so is yours.
Okay.
Okay, after wanting to know whether it's a polynomial, what else did they want to know?
Okay, so if so, write it in the standard form.
Okay, we've
State its
done that.
degree.
We've done A and B. Okay. What is
State its
its
degree.
degree?
So this one's degree is 8.
No,
Or no,
2.
it's 2.
The highest
Yeah, it's
exponent.
2.
The highest
Yeah.
exponent is the degree.
Okay.
And what is the leading coefficient? And when they ask that, they mean is it plus or minus?
This one is minus.
Correct. They're not asking for the number. In other words, if it was -2, they still would just want plus or minus. They don't, even though they don't make it clear when they ask for it, that's what they're asking. I just went through this with a student. And they kept saying, what's the coefficient? And I said, there's no way to tell what the coefficient is. But what they were really saying is the coefficient plus or minus?
Okay.
What else? Anything on this one before I erase?
I don't think there's. Oh, and that is it.
Okay.
Yeah, that is it.
What do you got next?
Right. Oh my goodness, my pen just quit working.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
There
you
you
don't
go.
need you don't need a pen actually.
Okay.
You're verbalizing everything to me. If my pen quit working, we'd be in trouble. But your pen, you don't actually need to do anything. And in fact, I would almost prefer you did not. In other words, I want you to make your worksheet my worksheet. And all I want you to do is tell me how to proceed,
Okay.
as opposed to doing it on your own on paper and pencil in front of you, which takes your focus away from our common page here.
Okay.
So let's try you doing these strictly from my page. So read the problem and then we'll try to answer it.
Okay. So fx
Hold on. That is pronounced f of x,
f of x.
and it's not multiplication. That means it is a function where the variable is x. In other words, it wouldn't make any sense for me to write this. That would be f of r.
Okay.
But as long as the variable on the other side of the equation is x, then I can write it. It's a function of x. It's not multiplication taking place.
Okay.
Okay. So here, let's start again. What do we got for f of x?
So f of x equals 6x plus 8x to the fourth minus 3.
Same question as before.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Is that a polynomial?
Yes.
Okay. Put it in order.
So 8x to the fourth minus 6x.
What's the
Or
sign
I mean
in front of the 6?
plus 6x minus 3.
Okay. What degree polynomial is this?
4.
And what is the coefficient? Plus or minus?
Plus,
Okay.
and it's 8.
Yeah. Yeah, it's plus 8.
Okay.
Okay. And I guess
So,
maybe in your problems, they do want you to give them the number since they're giving you the function. My previous student is all we had was a graph. And they wanted to know the degree of the polynomial and the coefficient, the leading coefficient. And the only thing you could actually figure out was whether the coefficient was plus or minus or not. But with
okay.
your problem where they're giving you the function, it's a little different.
Okay.
What's this next?
So, the next one is, so g and x equals pi x.
Oh, this one's g of x instead of f of x?
Yeah.
Yeah, that letter doesn't matter. It can be anything. F, G, H, I, doesn't matter. It just says we're
Okay.
talking about a function and the variable is x.
Okay. So it goes pi x to the fourth plus the square root of 6.
Is that a polynomial?
Yes.
Correct. Is it in order?
Yeah.
What's its degree?
4.
And what's its coefficient?
Ooh, is it 3.1? Is it
Well,
pi?
it's pi. Yeah, you don't want to round that off to a decimal unless somebody specifically asks you to, ever. It's pi.
Okay.
What more importantly, it's plus pi.
Okay.
Because here's what happens. If I have a function like x squared, okay, the reason the sign is so important, that's the graph of y equal x squared. But if I put a minus sign in front of that, then it opens down instead of up. So the sign on that first highest degree is the most important thing. More important than the size of the number is the fact whether it's plus or minus. So I would answer this plus pi. even though you normally rarely hear that expression, plus pi. Might be the first time I've ever said it.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And the only reason I did say it is because they're truly asking, is the coefficient plus or minus? And they're also asking you what the coefficient is because they're giving it to you, so they expect you to be able to tell it back to them. But the main consideration is whether it's plus or minus. So that's why I stick the plus when I say plus pi. If I said just pi, it would also be plus pi. But sometimes the question is really asking for whether it's plus or minus. And when it does, you want to say plus if it is plus.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, the next one is h of x equals x to the third just to the square root of 10 plus 5x,
Whoa, 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 whoa. We got x to the third, what?
and then it's the square root of 10 after that.
Where? Up in the exponent like that?
No, it is right after the exponent. There's no parentheses after the
Oh,
x. It's just
so it's this. It's x to the 3 square root of 10 power?
no, it's not in the power. It's just it's in the it's just like the next number. There's no addition or subtraction sign in between it or anything. They're just right next to each other.
Like that?
The x squared, or yeah, just like that.
Okay. Normally that would be written this way. In other words, that's just a coefficient. Why they chose to put it afterwards, just an attempt to confuse you. But a times b is the same as b times a. Okay? So I can put these in any order that I want, and you almost always see the number, that's just a number, in front. That's the coefficient. So is there more here, or is that it?
Yeah. So
Is that a polynomial?
x and then plus 5x.
Oh, there is more. Okay.
Yeah. 5x to the negative second power,
Okay.
and then plus 1.
Is that a polynomial?
Okay, that's it. It
Is
isn't.
that
It
a
isn't.
polynomial?
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't, because that needs to be a positive integer.
Yeah.
What this actually is 5 over x squared. That's not polynomial stuff when the x is in the denominator.
Okay.
So once we decide it's not a polynomial, there's no more questions on it, right?
Correct.
Okay. What else you got?
Okay. So, um, so h of x equals negative 5 over 2x to the third, and then plus 3x minus 10.
Is that a polynomial?
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is look at every x and
Mhm.
see if it has a positive integer coefficient or exponent.
Yeah.
Okay. And I could even think of this as being x to the 0, because x to the 0 is 1. I don't write it like that, but even still, if I were to write it like that, I've got x with a coefficient that's an integer. So it would be a polynomial, even if I chose to write an x to the 0 next to the 10. So what degree is this?
3.
What's its coefficient?
Is it 2.5?
Minus 5 halves.
Oh, I simplified the fraction in my head.
Don't need to do that. In fact, in math, ratios are better than proper fractions. In other words, I can write this number in any number of ways. I can write it this way. I can write it this way. The best way of all to write it is that way.
Okay.
By far.
Okay.
In other words, that's a proper fraction. This is an improper fraction. The terminology is misleading. Proper makes it seem like you should always turn improper fractions into proper ones. That's not true. In fact, it's the other way around. Improper fractions you should leave as improper fractions unless they can be reduced. If that said minus 10 over 4, well then that simplifies to minus 5 over 2. But there's no need to write it as minus 2.5.
Okay.
It introduces decimals, which in general in math, those don't work that well either.
Okay.
But the key thing on that wasn't whether it was 5 halves or 2.5. It's whether it was positive or negative.
Okay.
Here's the reason why.
All right.
Depends if I say y equals x cubed, that looks like this.
Okay.
But if I say y equals minus x cubed, it looks like this. It does the opposite. So that sign on that coefficient makes the difference between this thing coming from positive infinity on the left, or on the right, it's coming up from negative infinity. So it's a huge difference. And no matter what your polynomial, that sign determines a lot. Like I said, if I'm looking at x squared, well, positive x squared looks like this, negative x squared looks like that.
Okay.
And no matter what degree the polynomial, that sign of that leading coefficient is almost the most important part of the polynomial, because that tells me how to begin it. That tells me whether I should start way up here or way down here when I go to graph it.
All right. Okay. So, the last one of this section is g of x equals 8x to the third minus 4x. Oh, yeah, minus 4x to the second plus 2 over x.
Is that a polynomial?
Yeah.
You're probably saying that because there's a 1 exponent right there, right? And now
Yes.
all my exponents are positive integers. But my x is in the denominator here. That's a no-no for a polynomial. If I rewrite this properly, it becomes this. 2x to the minus 1. That is the same as that. The difference is now that I've put the x in the numerator, it's got a negative coefficient or exponent. It means it's not a polynomial. You gotta have all your x's in the numerators, and they gotta all have positive integer coefficients.
Okay.
Otherwise, it is not a polynomial.
All right.
Okay. You got one more of a different type. We just got about just enough time to cover it if you do.
Yeah. So we learned this new thing called direct substitution.
Okay.
So it says use direct substitution to evaluate the polynomial.
Okay.
function for the given value of x.
Okay.
So
Give me the function.
the first one is h of x equals 6x to the third minus 25x plus 20, and then the x is 5. X equals 5.
Okay. Now, the way I write that, the beauty of this notation, the advantage of using h of x over y is the following. I can now say, what is h of 5? Which means substitute whatever I have in the parentheses for x. So that's going to be 6 times 5 cubed minus 25 times 5. And I recommend always doing this step. Don't do any of this in your head and try to jump steps. What's 5 cubed?
5 cubed is that 5 times 5 times 5?
Which is
Okay,
125.
so yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
125 times 6 is 750.
Okay.
Minus 125 plus 20. So that's 6 1/4 plus 20, 645 is what h of 5 equals. Now, if they wanted you to evaluate it at some different number, like h of 7, then you'd put a 7 there, and a 7 there, and a 7 there.
Okay.
Now, before we go on, I want to just introduce you to this concept because you'll run into it. Doesn't have to be a number.
Okay.
In other words, there's my function right there where I'm pointing. What if I said to you, I hate the fact that I can't erase. What if I said to you, what is h of x plus 1?
H of x plus 1.
Hmm?
Then I would
What would you do?
input 5 as x normally,
Not
and
5.
then
There's no 5 here. Here's the secret. Whatever is in the parentheses, you substitute for x.
so the 1,
The x plus 1.
and that's what I would substitute
That's
for
what's
x.
in the parentheses is x plus 1. So it becomes 6 times x plus 1 cubed minus 25 times x plus 1 plus 20. That's the answer to what is h of x plus 1. Now, you're just being introduced to this, so they're just going to give you numbers for the moment.
Okay.
But if you go to any higher math, it doesn't have to be a number. It doesn't have to be a 5 or a 7. It could be x squared. It could be x plus 1 divided by x minus 1. It could be x plus 1. You can put in any function you want inside those parentheses, and what you do is whatever's in that parentheses, you stick in for x.
Okay.
Okay? All right. What else? Actually, that's
Okay.
probably a good place to stop, Brett.
Oh yeah, it is.
We can pick up from there. Unfortunately, I have a 6:30 tonight, so I'm going to let you go.
All right, adios. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Talk to you tomorrow, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.